Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest on the heat wave that is gripping the British Isles at the moment. Temperatures could be peaking in around that 35 to 38 degree mark between Thursday and Sunday, where this heat wave does peak, and we do now have an amber extreme heat warning put in force by the Met Office for that period from Thursday until Sunday. In today's video we'll have a look at the warning, of course, then we'll have a look at the various computer models at those temperatures over the next 5 or so days, and then we'll also have a look at the mid to longer range. It does look highly possible and perhaps even highly likely now that next week we will be seeing cooler weather and some precipitation quite widely in the form of showers and thunderstorms as cooler air does sweep in. But of course, we've still got another 5 or 6 days of this real intense heat coming before it sort of subsides come the start of next working week. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. So do start on the live radar. You can see it is bone dry across the British Isles at the moment. Nothing at all. Some precipitation just the far northeast of Scotland, and you can see pretty large area of dry weather across northwest Europe, and that's because we've just got a high pressure system centered over the top of us, and it is meaning those conditions are very dry, and the air is starting to waft up from the south and the southeast, turning those temperatures incredibly hot by the end of this week. If we do have a look at those temperatures at the moment, you can see how this big warmth is building across northwest Europe. The very hot air of the Mediterranean, Iberia, across southern France is going to be moving northwards, and I wouldn't be surprised seeing some of these pink colours, which is mid to high 30s, getting towards the 40 degree range towards this end of this week into the weekend. Now, we're not expecting 40 degrees, probably nowhere near close. Max is likely 37 or 38, and most probably 35, maybe 36 come Friday, Saturday, Sunday time. Now you can see it is still widely hot today, even though those temperatures widely today only into the high 20s, and we could see temperatures peak at 30 degrees maybe an hour or two after I'm recording this video. I'm recording this about 2:30, so around 3-4 p.m. we could reach 30 degrees, but we'll have a look at the latest observations in a second. You'll see it's widely high 20s, so very possible we do reach 30 degrees, and we'll just have to see. Or you can all see, go over to NetWeather and have a look, or follow Met Office on Twitter, and you'll be able to see later this evening if we have reached it. But you can see, regardless of whether it does reach 30 degrees or not, it is widely very warm heat wave conditions at the moment up and down the country. You can see even across Scotland we're seeing these reds building, which is mid to high 20s, Ireland, Northern Ireland, Wales, and all of England. And as I said in videos previously to this, that peak, or the sort of the bullseye area for the peak temperatures is going to be across the West Midlands, parts of southern Wales, western parts of southern England into the southwest, and that is because we do have an easterly flow around the high pressure system. You can see just along the east coast it is slightly cooler. You see more yellow tinge there, so it is meaning it is slightly cooler there. Temperatures probably in the mid 20s, maybe peaking high 20s later this week, and the reason for that is because, remember, the North Sea is not going to be incredibly warm. The sea surface temperatures at the moment are ranging around 18-19 degrees widely, locally in some bays, and very close to the shore, maybe 20-21 degrees. All the air passing over that around this high pressure system is going to inevitably get cooled down, and that does mean immediately on the coast and for quite a period inland it's going to be slightly cooler than further westwards, and you can already see that playing out, these darker reds towards the west and some lighter reds and oranges further eastwards. Still hot, let me not mistaken that, but it is very hot still, but not quite as hot as some areas in the west. So those areas that saw those peak temperatures, like Cambridge down to London, up towards Yorkshire, where we saw 40 degrees in a few of these spots in July, it's likely that peak is going to be shifted further westwards. Again, I'm not ruling out mid-30s in these regions, but it's likely the peak top temperatures, or at least the highest likelihood of the top temperatures, is further westwards. Now, if you look at the maximum temperatures of today, you can see this from NetWeather. Widely temperatures in the high 20s, 27 to 28 degrees on a number of weather stations here, all from 1 or 2 p.m. observations. And you can see even it was widely down Exeter, 28 degrees, Northolt near London, 27.3. So you can see widely across the south in the Midlands, it is incredibly hot. And that is going to be continuing, as I said, over the next 5 or 6 days. Again, it could reach 30 degrees around 3-4 p.m. and we'll just have to see later this evening if it does. And we'll be keeping up to date over the next few days, seeing exactly what those temperatures are doing. And I do suspect we could be seeing those mid to high 30s possibly once again later this week. Now, if you have a look at the weather warnings, you can see we do have an amber extreme heat warning covering most of England and quite a bit of Wales as well. So you can see it lasts from Thursday until Sunday, and you can see widely across central England, eastern England, southern and southwestern England, and parts of eastern Wales, and into parts of northern England as well. The far north of England, though, is not included. So, as I said, from Thursday until Sunday at midnight. A hot spell will develop across parts of England and Wales later this week, and if we do have a look at the further details for this, you can see temperatures will increase across much of the UK over the coming week. Temperatures will be highest across parts of England and Wales, with these peaking on Friday and Saturday. In addition to the high daytime maxima, temperatures overnight will remain very warm, especially in large urban areas, very likely and high impact. Again, if this was slightly further to the right in terms of impact, we could see a red warning put in force. But I do think red warnings from the Met Office will be exclusively for high 30s into the 40s, so to the possibility of seeing those temperatures peaking around that 40-degree range, whereas that's not going to happen. We're going to be a good few degrees below that, around that 35 to 38-degree range, as I said. So this is what I think is sort of the criteria now for an amber warning, is that 35-plus degree mark. Red warning, 39, 40-degree plus mark. Because remember, these warnings only came in force last summer for extreme heat, so we are still, figuring out exactly what the sort of ranges are for these warnings. But yeah, extreme heat warning, and you can see a few areas where it's not included. You can see some higher ground across northern England, all the way down the east coast, especially through East Anglia, northeast England, into parts of Kent, and that is because of that easterly flow cooling things down. And you can even see the eastern portion of the Isle of Wight is not included in the warning zone, and parts of the southwest, right along the fast tips and southern and eastern edges here of Cornwall as well. And that is because, as I said, of that easterly flow cooling things down ever so slightly. But most of inland areas, most of England, especially the southern half of England, including some areas in the north as well, and a lot of eastern Wales, is included in this extreme heat warning. Now, let me make it clear, areas outside of this extreme heat warning will still see temperatures into the 30s. It's highly likely some areas, even outside of this warning, could see low to mid 30s. But this is the highest likelihood area of seeing extreme heat over the next week or so, from Thursday until Sunday. So if we do first have a look for the models at the UKV. Now, this is normally very useful. I'm looking at the precipitation here, but there's hardly any precipitation in the forecast until next Monday. So it's not going to show up in the next 5 days on the UKV. So if we run through, you can see very minimal precipitation, a bit of cloud here or there, but again, very, very minimal. Maybe in the far north of Scotland, a bit of precipitation, but nothing really of note, and just a bit of cloud here or there. And again, just zooming through these precipitation charts like it's nothing, just because we haven't really got much going on. And you can see right at the end of the run, towards Sunday, look at those upper air temperatures, 17, 18 degrees. Again, you can add 15 degrees roughly for the most likely temperatures, so you're getting into those low to mid 30s, and again, because the ground's so hot, we get specific compression of the air, stuff like that, that we won't go into too much detail. It means those temperatures can rise even slightly higher through the summer months, and we can see temperatures, as I said, into that 35 to 38 degree range. Incredibly hot air mass moving up, not quite as hot as the air mass we saw in July, where it got to around 22, 23 degrees at 850 HPA, but still incredibly hot. And you can see cooler air is coming from the northwest, and that's associated with low pressure, which will be running in through Monday and Tuesday, giving us cooler air, but also some precipitation is likely with that as well. But it is too far away to say exactly how that will play out. So if you look at the max temperatures, you can see today temperatures peaking in around that 28, 29, and peaking maybe at 30 degrees in a few spots. So we'll just have to see later on this afternoon into the evening exactly what we did peak at. If we do have a look at Wednesday, you can see those temperatures rising even higher, widely 28, 29 again, but more areas reaching that 30 and 31 degree range, again likely favoured for western parts of England, but even towards Yorkshire, seeing 30, 31 degrees there. London around 28, 29. So slightly cooler further eastwards, and you can see across the northeast and the eastern coast. near Norwich, it's only 23 to 25 degrees. So you can see there are going to be regional differences. It is going to be heat wave for all, but the top temperatures are going to be very much positioned further westwards than we saw them in July. Now, as we head to Thursday, you can see those temperatures widely into the low to mid 30s, 32, 33, maybe even 34 degrees. So much more widespread low 30s here along the east coast, 26 to 28 degrees. So incredibly hot, and it's the persistence of this. 1 or 2 days at this temperature is not too bad, but it's this 4, 5, 6 day period. And of course, this is the first day where we have that extreme heat warning put into force. And Friday, you can see those temperatures rising even higher, widely 32 to 33 degrees, peaking maybe 34, maybe 35, or even locally 36. And it's up and down the country through England and Wales. Parts of Ireland could see 30 degrees, Northern Ireland into the high 20s, so as well as Scotland into the high 30s as well, high 20s, as well. You can see those overnight temperatures into Saturday are hardly dropping below the mid-teens. Mid to high teens very likely, which is pretty impressive for sleeping. Some areas not even getting below 20 degrees. So it's going to be a very warm night, not quite, as I said, hot as what we saw in the middle of July, but it's still really, really hot, and there will be people struggling to sleep over the next week or so. And again, it's the persistent. It's not just 1 or 2 nights of bad sleep. It could be 4 or 5. So please do take the necessary precautions to make sure you keep your houses or wherever you live as cool as possible. And if you finally have a look at the temperatures through Saturday, even hotter, 34, 35 degrees widely, could even be up towards 36, 37 locally in a few spots. And even where we have that easterly flow near Norwich, it's 29, 30 or 31. So even those areas that are very hot or that have been slightly cooler earlier in the week will be turning much, much hotter. And the reason for that, if you have a look at the the wind speeds, it still is an easterly flow, but it's coming more from a southeasterly direction. So more from the continent, so it's drier, hotter air. And that slight subtle wind direction is why those temperatures are going to rise even higher than the high 20s, sort of peaking around 30 degrees. And that's why it's going to rise even higher than that from Thursday until Sunday. Now, if you compare those 2 meter temperatures to the GFS, see what that is showing today. You can see those temperatures this afternoon peaking in around that 28, 29, 30 degree range. Pretty much similar to what we're seeing in reality. So is the UKV. So that's why we can take these pretty accurate at the moment, because we have seen models before where it's sort of 30 degrees in reality, and it's only 28 degrees on the model, and then you always have to think about, is the model a little bit cold bias? But both these models so far, the UKV and the GFS, have pretty much got the temperatures today pretty much bang on. So we can have a look at their forecast and say it's most likely going to be within a degree or so of it. And you can see for Wednesday's top temperatures, widely 30 to 32 degrees. A bit hotter than the UKV, interestingly. But yeah, widely into the 30s. For Thursday, even hotter, 34 or even 35 degrees across the southwest somewhere. Very, very hot conditions. And by Friday, even hotter, 35 or 36 looks possible here. And then by Saturday, rising to 35, 36 widely, and even to peaking around 37 degrees. That's why I say 37, 38 couldn't be ruled out locally. I do think the widespread highest temperatures will be around 34 to 36, but I do think it could top out maybe 37 or 38 in a couple of places if we do get that wind direction directly from the southeast. It takes a little bit more easterly, a bit more of a sea track. It could just cool it down by half a degree or so, and that could mean it only holds at 36, 37. So very slight differences, but it could make that top temperature fluctuate a little bit. So a little bit of uncertainty with that towards the weekend. And by Sunday, still incredibly hot, but back more down towards the mid to low 30s. Not that 36, 37 degrees, but widely 33, 34, maybe peaking in a couple spots instead of widely 35 or 36. Again, it'll still feel oppressively hot, but it'll feel pretty much the same. And yeah, it's really, really going to be pretty horrible out there this upcoming week if you do not enjoy the hot weather. By Monday, though, you can see those temperatures still very hot in the far east, 34, 33 degrees, very possible. But by Tuesday, much cooler, nowhere really getting above 30 degrees, maybe high 20s, peaking in the far south as that precipitation and low pressure is sweeping in. So if we do compare it to the GM, see what that is showing for the temperatures over the next 10 days, or well, really have a look at the next 7 or so. You can see this afternoon those temperatures peaking around that 27, 28, maybe 29 degree range at 3 p.m. So perhaps the GM a degree lower than the other two models, more widely 27 degrees. We're already seeing those temperatures surpass that at 1 and 2 p.m. So perhaps the GM is slightly cooler, so we have to take that into account for the next few days. So if we do look at the Wednesday temperatures, peaking 29 or 30, so if we do add that sort of degree colder bias, you could say maybe more widely 30, peaking 31. For Thursday afternoon, widely 30, 31 degrees, maybe peaking 32 or 33, and by Friday afternoon we're going to see those temperatures rise even higher to perhaps 32 widely, 31, maybe even 33, 34, and by Saturday very similar, 30 to 32, maybe 33. But still a degree or two lower than the other two models. So I definitely do think the GM has got a little bit of a cool bias here, not quite picking up those top end temperatures, because it has been on the low end the last couple of days, the last couple videos we've had a look at it has been on the low end, and today for the 3 p.m. temperatures it is sort of got the observations at 1 or 2 p.m. where we've still got an hour or two of heating. So yeah, I do think it is slightly cooler, so maybe add a degree or two onto these for the top temperatures, but it is still in the general ballpark of low to mid 30s widely, and you see by Sunday widely still in the low 30s before Monday starts to cool down back down towards 26, 27 degrees. So Monday the GM gets that cooler air in. GFS, though, still holds on to that very hot air through Monday in the east. So that is something we do need to keep an eye on, because, of course, the longevity of this heat wave is something that is important, of course. 1 or 2 extra days can have severe impacts for people who are already suffering from the heat, also for wildfires, things like that. Whether the rain comes on Tuesday or Monday or even Sunday evening can make a very big impact to how long any wildfires that do get going, which is very possible. I'm not going to lie, over the next sort of 5 or 6 days, I think it is very likely we do see another big outbreak of wildfires throughout the country, unfortunately, as I said. So if we do finish by having a look at the mid to longer range, we'll have a look at the GFS, GM, ECMWF and the ensembles. Now we will have a look at precipitation charts. I know some people will be interested when we will see precipitation next week. We'll have a look at those charts perhaps tomorrow or at the latest Thursday and Friday, because that's when the models, the short range models, sort of the models that forecast things 3 to 5 days ahead, will have it sort of in their model outputs, and we'll have a look at sort of Sunday through to Tuesday at that precipitation risk, where it's most likely, the intensity, and whether we will see thunderstorms within that as well. But for the time being, we'll run through the pressure charts, and you'll be able to see where those low pressure systems are located, and it gives us the best idea of where those shower risks will be at this stage. So you see the high pressure building in at the moment, a bit of an easterly flow, but more veering southeasterly by the end of this week, and it's drawing up incredibly hot air from the south, as you see with the 850 HPA temperatures, getting up towards 15 to 20 degrees at 850 HPA, for eventually you see this cooler air towards Iceland with a low pressure system starts to run through, and by Tuesday we're into cooler air masses. Not massively cold, still 10 degrees at 850 HPA, so generally around average, but with low pressure associated with it, it could be quite heavy rain, thundery rain within that towards the start and middle of next week. Beyond that, we do go more westerly, so it does look like it will be repeated bouts of precipitation there for many in the north and the west. At least the south looks like high pressure could be building back in, and right in the extended range could see another push of very hot air there. 15-degree isotherm comes in for right at the end of the run. We actually see high pressure pushing back in. So we could see a temporary relief from the drought conditions we have at the moment. We could see some precipitation in the south, could see widespread precipitation. Don't know the intensity of it, don't know exactly how widespread it's going to be, but from these pressure charts it's looking like that precipitation risk could only last a few days, and we could be back into high pressure dominance, especially in the south. So not looking too good for eradicating these drought conditions. We could sort of get a little bit of precipitation next week, but it doesn't look like that's the long-term sort of view. It does look like it will go slightly more unsettled, at least for a period of time. This GFS run has high pressure building back in. Now, if we do have a look at the GM, see how that does compare over the next 10 days. Again, high pressure building in, and then eventually towards next week, low pressure running in, forming in the south, heading through Iceland, and then forming in the south towards the Channel, and that spiraling up very hot air. That would produce some big big thunderstorms. Yeah, that would be pretty severe there, low pressure engaging with that very hot air through Sunday into Monday, before eventually we do go into cooler air masses with low pressure running in off the Atlantic, a cooler, fresher feel in from the west. That would be much cooler, but still no big low pressure associated with it, so no massive soaking at this stage. Now, we can see most of the soakings from thunderstorms, but it's localized, widespread weather fronts, giving sort of widespread 6 to 12 millimeters. We're not seeing that on the charts at the moment, and that's kind of what we need to alleviate these drought conditions. But at least it is turning cooler, at least there is a shower risk because we're not centered under the higher pressure. That is one positive towards the end of this GM run today. Now, if we do look at the ECMWF run, see how that does compare. Again, high pressure building in at the moment, completely dominating over the next few days. As I said, eventually low pressure runs in, could be quite thundery with that, and actually low pressure dominates a lot more in this ECMWF run than on the GFS and the GM. This would be very showery, and we most likely would break those drought conditions, at least for a period of time in the south. We would be able to replenish the water supply at least a bit with this low pressure system, because it would be spiraling in a lot of showers, a lot of thunderstorms, and you could even see some persistent bouts of rain with this as well widely. So yeah, this would help, but it's one of 3 solutions from these operational runs today. And if we do finish by having a look at the ensembles, you can see there's no massive precipitation signal in the longer term. Very hot over the next 5, 6, 7 days towards the 16th, 17th of August. So around next Monday time, that's where most of the ensemble members are going much cooler, and you can see quite a few precipitation spikes building in, some very big, some small. Again, it all depends on convection. But the longer term outlook is there still is some precipitation spikes, but nothing crazy. And that's the worrying side. We need persistent precipitation. We don't need just a few thunderstorms for a few days. It will help a bit, but we need persistent couple weeks of average or above average rainfall to be getting our drought conditions under control again. One bad thing looking in the longer term is it does look like those temperatures will be back above average. The operational run gets back towards 15 degrees at in-drift HPA, and quite a few runs back towards that 10 to 15 degree mark, which I wouldn't say is a heat wave, but it's very warm, and it most likely would be very dry, associated with air masses coming up from the south. So that's not a particularly good sign. We can see that from the sea level pressure, a drop around the 15th, 16th, 17th next week, but then rising once again back up to very high pressure for the last week or so of August. It is in the extended range, so things can change, but at the moment, that is what we're seeing. Now, if you compare it to the ECMWF, the midnight run, look at the in-drift HPA temperature and precipitation, much more precipitation on this. Again, there is 50 ensemble members, so we expect that, but quite a big bout of rain between the 15th and the 18th. So I do think it is safe to say we will see precipitation next week. We will officially break this dry spell, but whether it actually does put a dent into the drought conditions we do have, yet to be determined. We have to have a look at those precipitation charts over the next few days, see the intensity of that rain to see exactly what could happen. But as I said, over the next 5 or 6 days, it's going to be incredibly hot, and in the long term, back towards average. Not as much of a warmer bias towards the end of August, but still a lot of scatter there, so we don't have too much of a clue what's going on at this stage. So anyway, thanks for watching. Make sure you stay safe over the next week or so. Make sure you do listen to those warnings, listen to the Met Office, and of course I'll keep you updated here. Make sure you do look after the vulnerable, look after your friends and family who may be vulnerable to the heat. Make sure you do stay hydrated, and please do stay safe with any fire, cigarette butts, any barbecues, anything like that. Please do take the necessary precautions to make sure that it doesn't spark any wildfires, as that is one of the biggest risks this week, because the ground is so dry, vegetation is so dry as well. It's just like a tinderbox out there, and that is the last thing we want, is loads of stories of wildfires going on. So please do make sure you do stay aware out there and do take care of yourself. So anyway, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.